Hampton. Hey, man. So when I work with buyers and sellers all the time, I hire inspectors, right?
Yep.
And so what ends up happening is we'll get an inspection and then we'll ask the seller in most cases, to make a change.
Make some repairs,
to
fix
make some
something.
repairs, or redo the work that they thought they did right. So inspecting this podcast, right, we noticed that there were some mistakes that needed to be corrected. So we actually put on the same clothes from when we shot the podcast, and we're actually doing the reshoot.
That's commitment.
Real commitment.
For you.
Yes, that's real commitment. I mean, what other podcast is doing that out there?
We're fixing our mistakes. We inspected. We found mistakes. We're reshooting and redoing it. So you're in for a treat today on the Investor Tribe podcast. I'm Hampton Scurlock.
I'm Milton Ali, and we want to welcome you to the Investor Tribe podcast.
Late night grind, got the cash in the flow. Flipping these dreams, what's the portfolio grow? Brick by brick, stacking wealth in the zone. Investor Tribe, as where the hustle is home.
And today we have Chad Winchell on the podcast. Welcome.
Thank you. Great to be here.
Yeah, welcome. And so what we want to talk about today is we want to talk about the importance of inspections and full disclosure. As a real estate agent, I use Excel inspections. It's just what it is. You buy your own podcast, you go on your own podcast, you can have your cool friends that do inspections on them, okay? We're not going to apologize here. And so, but anyway, can you take us back to one of your more surprising or memorable inspections?
Okay, well, did one inspection. I did inspections for 5 years up in the Washington, D.C. area. So
okay.
I did a home inspection up there.
And there's nothing wrong in Washington, D.C.
Well, it was Maryland, Virginia, Northern Virginia, and D.C., and it was incredible. Northern Virginia, houses were well taken care of. You cross over to Maryland, it was a totally different story.
Okay.
It was really a lot like here. It's just a lot of times things are just neglected, forgotten. No maintenance type thing.
Okay.
So, so I knew that was preparing me for when I came here. So, but anyway, I was doing a home inspection there in Maryland, and I always save the crawl space for last because they get all nasty and dirty there. So,
Right.
Did the inspection, popped off the crawl space hatch, and I looked down. There was a full basement with 2 feet of water, unfinished drywall everywhere, mold all over the drywall.
Oh, yes.
So it was a newly renovated house. So I guess they just decided to close up the stairs to the basement and not tell anybody. And it just filled full of water and mold. And so that was pretty crazy. Very unexpected.
Goodness. Yeah, that's the unplanned for in-ground basement pool.
Exactly.
I guess you're sitting on top of mold and it's going to get up into the
Well, it's going to be
foundation
in the air. Yeah,
into the air.
in the air. So hard telling why the investor thought it wasn't worth the money of at least keeping the basement dry. And
I mean, they hid a whole basement.
yeah. Well, I didn't go down. I mean, all I could see was a basement from the hatch. Wasn't able to go down there or walk around.
So
So
that is
2 feet of water. Yep.
2 feet of water. That's fascinating. And so, it's really interesting how your job, but that's basically your job, right?
Sure.
To do the uncovering.
Exactly.
When you really think about it,
Yeah.
it's your job to just uncover, the different things that are about a house. And what would you say would be one time where you saved a buyer or an investor from making a major mistake during an inspection?
Well, yeah, my role as a home inspector, investors obviously are very familiar with houses, many different parts of the house and construction. But my job is to take 2-3 hours and just systematically go through each and every system. So like just yesterday, I was on a house, went up in the attic, and there was beautifully lined knob and tube wiring. So this house was 99 years old, so that was probably the original wiring from 1926. which if you're an investor, that's going to be a pretty significant expense on rewiring the house. Out in the garage as well, there was the old fuse panel boxes.
Oh, no breaker boxes, just the old twist-in
The old-
fuses.
The old
Yeah.
twist and fuse. I mean,
And
oh my gosh.
there were 30 amp breakers on all of them, and the wires were only rated for 20 amps, right? So those are things that for an investor is going to be an expense. You know, obviously the fuse box you'd be able to find, but without getting up in the attic, you wouldn't have been able to know that, right? So that's one example, and then just I was up last week. I was in a home built 70 years ago, popped up in the attic, zero insulation. So no insulation for 70 years in the attic, if you can believe that.
Not even old newspapers or something like they used to do. So
Nothing. It was clean. I mean, there were some vines from some ivy that had grown in there. It looked like it was pretty thick, but yeah. So it's not rocket science, but it is something that's as a home inspector, I'm providing information, right, and I'm providing confirmation of all of the things that you're hoping are good and not a big problem. But then I'm also providing, knowledge and information for things that are not right. So, so when you're buying, that's, the more information, the better.
And it is a lot of information. I'm trying to think, with houses, you got a lot of different systems, moving parts, pieces, and I think you may be giving too much credit to some investors. I know you've had specialized, you've had specialized training, and you're inspecting all these systems and can give feedback to the investor or to the buyer or seller. What's going on? Was this a problem? Is this normal? How do you fix this? The average investor may know one or two, a few things about houses, but you probably had to go to take training, classes, community education. What was your background for,
Yeah, I grew up, my dad had a flooring business, so we were always doing, we focused on new construction flooring. So I worked my way through college doing that. And when I lived in Europe for 10 years. So I was doing mission work over there. Okay. So when I wasn't doing that, I was working in flooring. I had my own flooring business. Then 20 years ago, we built a couple of homes. I was the contractor for a couple of homes in Goshen, a couple 4,000 and 5,000 square foot house. So I had a general knowledge of everything. When I started doing home inspections, I was living up in the DC area, and my friend there started a home inspection business, was doing great. So I was able to join on with him. I did have to do additional training just to get all of the specifics, and so it takes training, but then it also takes eye for detail. It takes perspective, because everything has its place and its perspective, right?
And it was helpful that you have institutional knowledge.
Oh yeah, for sure.
So it's not just, well, hey, I'm looking at this from a academic standpoint. You're looking at it from okay, I know how things are supposed to look.
Yeah.
On top of that.
And you've built houses. I don't know any other inspectors who've built, houses. Some have had experience in the trades or some background in construction, but actually building a whole house, I think that'd give you an advantage or a lot of knowledge of how houses work and the systems and the insulation and the roof and designing, the framing, from the roof to the floor, or even.
Well, I wish I knew then as much as I know now.
Right, I can only imagine. Yeah,
that was as a general contractor, you're basically contracting everybody to do their thing, and you're trusting them to know what they're doing. And that's what I had to do a lot of there. And then you do gain a general knowledge of a lot of different components. So when I started training to be a home inspector, then I started to learn all of the details that are, for example, even with an electric panel, right? With the HVAC system, with all of these different components. So I'm able to use all of that in my home inspections, and And I understand, hey, nobody's perfect. Sometimes things get overlooked. I was doing a new construction house a month ago. It's on a crawl space down in Barstow, I think. And into the inspection, go down in the crawl space. I see all this wet wood. I call up Bub. I say, hey, can you run the bathtub? Sure enough, water just came pouring out. They didn't connect the bathroom drain to the drain pipe.
Real estate investing has gotten a lot harder, right? Interest rates are high. There's a lot fewer buyers. Material prices have gone up. Labor rates have gone up. And there's just a lot of uncertainty in the market. And the solution for moving forward is to get some clarity. And so that's why Freedom Property Group is offering a class called Financial Freedom Accelerator to show you how to find deals in every market, including this one, and to be able to move forward confidently with your next investment. You can find out more on our website. You can email me at eric@fpg-ky.com, or you can call or text at 502-921-3989.
When you started, when they let you in, you discovered they had hidden issues. And what did you discover?
Renovations. I'm the quality control guy who comes in at the end. And
yes.
For you, I come
for me,
in
yeah, for me.
before you put it on the market, so
Right.
you have time to deal with your contractors. Hey, what are you doing here?
Right.
A lot of times, whenever I'm doing it for a purchase, I'm the quality control guy after the contractors are long gone, and then I'm calling out like, hey, you got these electrical things that weren't done correctly. You got this plumbing that is leaking here, not doing well there. I did the 3 fourplexes a couple of days ago, and there were probably 8 to 10, drain leaks. So whatever plumber they had, and these were newly renovated probably in the last 2 years. So whatever plumber they had was not a good plumber. I mean,
You know how scary that is?
Yeah.
That's ridiculously scary, Hampton. I mean, just to be thinking about like how many people don't bring in inspectors.
And I was thinking of something else that's scary, and you may enlighten me as to why these electric panels, the old Federal Pacific, the stab lock breakers, have horrible reputation, and I learned that early on. And the stab, look for Federal Pacific Enterprises or FPE, and if it's got stab lock, it's going to stab you because you're going to want to replace that. So what makes them so dangerous, or is that something that still you encourage people to remove that, or do you see those around very much more?
Don't see them around very much, but they were faulty panels. The documentation was falsified to get them approved, and so a lot of times the breakers wouldn't trip. They would lock in place and wouldn't trip when they should trip. So those don't see them that often. Just like knob and tube nowadays, you don't see it very often, but sometimes it's there, but yeah.
And so it's really interesting because whether it's a electrical panel or it's a whole house where you discovered that, they didn't even install the drain, they didn't even connect the drain pipes, right? It's being able to hold people accountable.
Sure.
And so I remember we sat down, this was a while back, we sat down and I felt like I almost was getting emotional. So we sat down, had lunch a while back. This is long, probably over a year ago. So we sat down, we had lunch, and I basically was like, here's what's going on in my life. You remember that? I was like, here's what's going on. I got this. I think I was just starting, like teaching, helping people. I was always helping people, but I was starting the courses and I was starting doing some things. I did a couple of workshops, and I remember telling you, I was like, okay, so here's what I see. It's almost like I had this crystal ball, and I was like, here's what I'm seeing. I'm seeing we're not doing the due diligence going in, and we're sure as heck not doing the due diligence going out of the rehab. And I was like, can you can you help me?
Sure.
Be that accountability, that level of accountability. And I talked to another inspector the same way. It was just like, look, I need a team of people that can help me navigate this piece, because a lot of the investors that I work with, we're not home. We don't build homes.
Sure.
We have limited understanding, and we needed another critical eye. Now, it's interesting that you literally went into one of my houses and you looked at it at the beginning. And then a couple of months later, you walked in again. And I don't know if you knew this, but I literally took your inspection report to the contractor and said, "Hey, what's up with all this?" And he went right back to work. He did it for free. Now, here was another thing. You also caught something that I never addressed. So I did have to spend a couple of extra dollars to get some things taken care of. But by and large, it was, hey, fix all this. Let's get all this taken care of, and let's have a good product. And that product sold without any problems.
Yep. Yeah, well, that's the thing. I've done inspections on renovations where I go up in the attic. They did change out all the drywall, but zero insulation on a new renovation. Right. Just last week, another brand new renovation. They bragged about how they changed out all of the floor joists. No access to the crawl space, but I was able to look inside one little vent they had, lifted that up, saw that they never put down a vapor barrier. They put the insulation in backwards. And and there was no access to the crawl space. So obviously that was going to be a pickle. I spoke to the realtor today, and the seller was willing to get back in the crawl space, fix the insulation, fix the vapor barrier. But that's going to be a lot of headaches, right, that they're having to go through. Whereas if you have an inspection earlier, you can make sure all of those things are done correctly. And I don't know how many, it may have been on yours, but I know on a couple of houses, renovations, I get up on the roof and I find empty holes where the plumbing pipe used to come out. They changed the plumbing pipes, like they took it out, rerouted things, but they just left the hole with the boot empty in the roof.
So. And so here's the thing that I think the takeaway that we're giving to everyone in the tribe. When you are inspecting, when you're getting your houses, when you're renovating, when you're working and renovating on houses, it's so important to not only be able to get an inspection once you are done and your contractor is still at arm's length. You don't want Excel inspections to be there while you're under contract trying to sell it, or under contract trying to get it, sold to a buyer, and now that buyer's inspector is expecting everything to be done. And so it's a way for you to really take care of business. And so looking back, is there a particular inspection that taught you a lesson, either about people, homes, or the business?
I'm sure there are. I'm trying to think through, thoroughness. As a home inspector, there's so many, we've got a limited amount of time, 2.5, 3 hours, and trying to find everything I can. That I remember, up in DC, a guy called my boss after I'd done the inspection, and he says, "Hey, you didn't see that the paint was peeling on top of the microwave, like on the inside of the microwave." And my boss was always very quick to okay, hey, we'll pay for it. But that would come out, it would basically be me paint.
Right.
So I learned very quickly, hey, don't miss things, because if you miss things, I'm going to be responsible. So I do take responsibility on things. Obviously, I'm not perfect. Nobody's perfect. But I work very hard to make sure everything's looked at, and I do my very best not to not to let any rock go uncovered, or unturned.
I definitely appreciate that.
Buying a home? Don't guess. Call Chad at XL Inspections. I provide high quality home inspections in the Louisville area, in southern Indiana. I'll travel up to within an hour of Louisville. I'm licensed in both Indiana and Kentucky. I provide radon testing. But I take a very thorough look at everything from the basement or the crawl space up to the roof and attic. I'd love to be able to help you with your upcoming home inspection. Chad Winchell, you can call me at 502-87-XL, 502-873-9235, or book online at excelmyinspection.com.
I think that there is often a disconnect in people that want to get inspections or just see you as an expense. What do you say to that? Like, how do you deal with that type of dynamic? Because I know it exists in my space where I'm helping investors saying, hey, you want this person on your team.
Sure.
And
want this person.
And sometimes investors, we may think of it as, if it's going to cost us a few $100s, but it can save us several $1,000s or prevent us from making a mistake. Do you see that often that you're able to show, hey, here's some things you may consider, some things you're getting into that that you may not have seen, and you've had investors you walk away or they've renegotiated, they've recouped your cost 10 times over from what you found, and you've saved them quite a bit.
Oh yeah. No, I've heard of many times where people have been able to negotiate for thousands and sometimes $10,000, $15,000 on things that I found. In terms of, I don't try real hard to convince people. I figure, because if somebody doesn't know the value that a home inspection brings, they'll just have to learn the hard way. Same with even. My home inspections aren't the cheapest, right? You can always find a cheaper home inspector, but you are going to get what you pay for. And I've been down here. I was going to start working for a couple of different home inspectors down here. And some of them, very, very popular home inspectors here. And some of the tools that I use, they've never used them before. Right, multimeter to test the water heater, make sure both elements are working. Right. I have an infrared camera, that I use to scan for leaks. In this threeplex that we were at, there was a signal about that big around. The paint, no stain at all. But I saw with my infrared scanner, put my moisture meter up there, and sure enough, that was a huge leak that was going on that you would never see with the naked eye. So
wow.
So in terms of I trust people know the value when they call me. I can try to convince them, hey, I know it's not cheap. I know we're all trying to make money. You gotta save money where you can, right? And so, but if you can see the home inspections as a real investment, that's the way I see them. And that's, I really work hard, not just to do a rubber stamp inspection, right? You can get those where somebody, they'll minimize this. Well, I just try to be honest and upfront with, these are real issues, right? And these are things that you can address or you might not want to address. It's up to you. The next guy might find it, and just be prepared, that you might have to deal with it then. So.
Yeah, you did an inspection on one of my clients, and they walked away from the house.
Mm-hmm.
And that's just, and it worked out because ultimately we want people in our circle, in our lives, to be able to tell us things that are going on with the property. And if it's beyond what the buyer can bear and deal with, I will, I'm totally down for that particular buyer walking. And I do think that in the investor world, you get to see a lot more problems, and there is very little room sometimes for negotiation. So it's more pass or fail, right? And what I tend to tell my students in the Flip Savvy courses I teach are, yes, I'm so glad you saved several $100s on that $4,000 repair, right? Because it's several $100s just to get an inspection, but that repair is $4,000.
Sure.
Had you spent the several $100s, you could have potentially saved yourself a lot more money in the back end.
If you've got real estate projects coming up and you need any exterior siding, windows, garage doors, any premium products, Benthal Brothers has you covered. They're a local business. They've been around since 1943, multiple locations. They'll even do deliveries. So they're a one-stop shop for a lot of your product needs. Benthal Brothers since 1943.
I would totally agree with what you're saying there. And I think that's another great value that my report would bring in is you get all of the things you need to fix with the electrical. Rather than an electrician, hey, it looks like we got to fix this, put some GFCIs here. Well, if I come with the inspection, now you show your electrician, hey, we've got these 10 things we've got to address. And you can hold them responsible that they've addressed all 10 of those rather than, fixing 3 things. But then when you get an inspection before you're selling it, the inspector calls out 5 other things that weren't missed. Right?
And that's correct. And so as a real estate agent, the way I describe inspectors, and it's so important for the people of the tribe to know that you hire an inspector in lieu of the expert, especially upon your analysis.
So the best solution there is to hire, a well-rounded and trained, inspector to look at all those things for you.
Sure. And what I try to provide with my reports is, very clear pictures. I've seen a lot of reports where like fuzzy pictures, can't really make heads or tails, super general statements. I try to be very specific, try to have a flow to where other times I've seen inspection reports where as an inspector, I'm totally lost. I can't make heads or tails, don't know where to start. So I try to make mine, just make mine very user-friendly. It flows, it gives you, great information, detail, and it's a real tool for an investor, for a home buyer. No house is perfect. There's always going to be things. So the small things can be on the honey-do list, but the big things are like, okay, I now know what they're going to address.
Get that address. Let's go ahead and shout out our socials. Where can you find the Investor Tribe? Well, you can find us on social media. You can find us on YouTube. You can find us on Facebook. You can find us on Instagram. And you can find us on X, formerly known as Twitter. That's on INV Tribe on everything. So you can follow us, watch us, hit us up, ask us questions at INV Tribe on everything, on all the socials. And what we want to do is really thank you, Chad, for coming on out.
Thank you so much.
And for really educating the tribe on how important it is to have an inspection and to do your due diligence, right? We recommend inspections, especially for all of our clients, people that take Flip Savvy. We highly recommend that they get an inspection and that they get some things figured out, that they're able to navigate all of this. And so let's go ahead and, you can find us again on all of our socials, INV Tribe on everything. And I'm Milton Ali.
And I'm Hampton Scurlock.
And we'll catch you on the flip side of the Investor Tribe.
The Investor Tribe podcast is brought to you by the Investor Tribe, all rights reserved, featuring Hampton Scurlock and Milton Ali, executive producer Drew Cookenmaster, produced and distributed by Bespoke Marketing.